Hi guys, this is Ms. Bofice, and today we're doing comparing numbers with scientific notation. So earlier in the week, Ms. Dupakowski taught us how to do from scientific to standard and standard to scientific. Mostly today we're going to be just looking at scientific notation. So there are a few things to remember when you are comparing numbers in scientific notation. The first thing is that you want to make sure that all your numbers are in scientific notation. So if for some reason they give you something in standard form, remember standard form is just how you regularly write numbers, you have to change it to scientific. And the way to do that is in your calculator, you hit second, DRG, and then you're going to scroll until you see sci and hit enter. So make sure your calculator is in sci mode, which you do that by going, again, second, DRG, scroll to sci, and hit enter. So once all of your numbers are in scientific notation, you're just going to look at their exponents. So you're going to see, do they want the bigger or the smaller? And all you have to do is the bigger exponent is the bigger number. So if you are comparing two numbers and one has an exponent of 3 and one has an exponent of 6, the one with the exponent of 6 is a much larger number. Same thing with smaller. So if they want the smaller one and they have the exponents of 3 and 6, obviously the exponent of 3 is smaller than exponent of 6. So the 3 one would be smaller. You just have to read the question. If for some reason the exponents are the exact same, you're going to look at the decimal. And the decimal is just that first factor. But that you only look at that if the decimals or if the exponents are the exact same. So to recap, you have to make sure that all the numbers are in scientific notation. Then you look at their exponents, whichever one is bigger or smaller, and look at the question to see what they want. And if for some reason the exponents are the same, you look at their decimal. So here we go. Let's do some practice. First up, we have determine which one is bigger. We have 6.23 times 10 to the 14th power and 8.912 times 10 to the 12th. So they want us to look at the exponents since they're both in scientific notation, and they want the bigger one, 14 and 12. 14 is the bigger number, so 6.23 times 10 to the 14th is the bigger number. Looking next door, we have 5.15 times 10 to the negative 4th, or 6.35 times 10 to the negative 5th. They are both in scientific notation, so I'm just going to look at their exponents of negative 4 and negative 5. So exponents are a little tricky because they have negatives. You want the bigger one. So remember, the bigger number for negatives is the one closer to 0. Or you can think about owing money. So if you owe someone $4 versus owing someone $5, you obviously want to owe someone $4 because that's less money that you owe them. So which one's bigger? This one right here, 5.15 times 10 to the negative 4th, because it's closer to 0. And because if you were to write it into standard form, this one on the right-hand side would have an extra 0, and this one only has or 2 other zeros. So when it comes to negative exponents, whichever one is smaller is actually the bigger number. All right, this third one, they want us to look at it. They're both in scientific notation. So I'll circle my exponents and look at those. They're both 17. All right, so now I have to look at their decimals. So we have 3.28 and 4.25. The bigger one in this case is 4.25 times 10 to the 17th. So since the exponents were the same, I look at the decimals and determine which one is bigger. Last up, we have 5,560,000, or 5.53 times 10 to the 6th power. This one is not in the left-hand side, not in scientific notation. So all I am going to do is in my calculator, make sure I'm in sci mode and type in 5560, 1, 2, 3 zeros, and it's going to change it for me. 5.56 times 10 to the 6th. And I'm going to compare it to 5.53 times 10 to the 6th. So now that they're both in scientific notation, I look at their exponents, which are both 6. So that tells me I need to look at the decimals. So I have 5.56 and 5.53. I ask myself which one is bigger. I can think of it as money. And the left-hand side is bigger, so 5.56 times 10 to the 6th. Or it was 5,560,000. So that is comparing numbers, you just look at to see if they're in scientific notation, and if they're not, change it like we did for this one right here on the left. Once they're in scientific notation, you look at their exponents and compare them. If for some reason the exponents are the same, you look at the decimals. All right, last one. These are the ones that you usually see these types of problems as. They give you some type of population or chart, and they want you to compare it. It says these are the populations of 5 different countries. List the countries from least to greatest, so smallest to biggest. So I check and ask, okay, are they all in scientific notation? Yes, 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 yes. All right, so then we start seeing the exponents. So the exponents are 7, 8, 7, 5, and 6. So they want it from smallest to biggest, least to greatest. So the smallest exponent is Luxembourg. So I'm just going to put a little 1 right here. The next smallest exponent is Singapore with its 6. So I put a 2. Next up I have 7, but I have 2 of them with 7. So that means I need to look at their decimals. So if I'm looking at their decimals, we have 2.0 and 7.7. So Egypt is bigger because it's 7.7. So that means Australia comes next, then Egypt, and then obviously Brazil is last with the 8. And then I'm just going to rewrite it. So they said Luxembourg was first, the smallest, and then it was Singapore was the second smallest, and then it was Australia, and then Egypt, and lastly Brazil. So this was going smallest to biggest. So smallest to biggest. If they wanted biggest to smallest, you would just go the opposite direction. You would just start with Brazil first and work your way backwards because Brazil had the exponent of 8. So that's all you're really doing. Again, make sure they're both, or whatever numbers are in scientific notation. And then you're going to look at the exponents. And if for some reason the exponents are the same, you look at the decimals. And that's all you have to do. So that is comparing numbers in scientific notation. Bye, guys.